guys, Day Noodles here. Today we're going to be taking a look at something pretty cool. As you can tell, these are ANVIS 10s. Not something you can get to take a look at too often, and they're my buddy JW's here. What you're looking at is something kind of halfway vintage. It's not in current production. It's called the PMVG. So everybody's familiar with the GPMVG, the ground panoramic night vision goggles, number 18. This is the predecessor to that. These are called the PMVG. It was a program developed for fixed-wing aviators, primarily A-10, to my understanding. They're flying low, they're flying in between canyons. They were looking for something to give them more peripheral while they're doing those sorts of maneuvers in the dark. So there was a research program, I think it was back in the 90s. They developed a few different versions, and this is one from in the 2000s that they finalized that saw some usage on the ground with some higher level units, and was really the predecessor to the ruggedized ground unit, the GPMVG. So it's called the ANVIS 10. You may be familiar with the ANVIS 6 or the ANVIS 9. Those are real common aviator goggles that saw plenty of ground use as well. Obviously just two tubes on those. But there's some features that flow through, primarily using the same mounting system. So you'll see this is a Wilcox mount that's got power on board, but it also has an external battery pack. Same power unit here. This is a Adams Industries SAM mount, but this would just clip into a regular mount on your helmet, and then it's connected to a battery pack as well. What's cool about those mounts is they contain the power within them, and so whenever you flip your goggles down, the power comes on. If you flip them up and you're doing something through just ambient light, then you don't have to worry about turning your goggles off because it cuts the power. It's real simple. There's no fancy electronic switches. There's no knob to turn. They just power up as soon as you flip them down and power off when you flip them up. So the ANVIS unit itself is 25 ounces. So it's similar, a little bit heavier than binos, but it's not double the weight by any means. It's a polymer housing. It's a slightly smaller diameter image intensifier tube. The objective lenses are neck down a little bit. You can see them tapering at the front, so there's a little bit less glass. And like I said, all the power is off board, so that saves a bunch of weight too. You don't have a battery housing, you don't have switches. It's a pretty trim unit. So if you were to remove it from the mount, you'll see that ball detent mount, aviator mount. It just clips right in, and you'll see the two power contacts there on either side for power. So that's where all the juice comes into the goggle. There's no battery at all in the unit itself. At the front of the unit, you'll see the focus adjustments. You can focus all the way in, right about to arm's length, and then out to infinity, no problem. At the front are filters, very similar to an LIF. I'm not sure exactly what frequencies it blocks and passes, but one of the downsides to those using on a ground basis is you don't see much of red or green visible lasers. So something to consider. If you just unscrew these guys, they come right off, and you can see lasers, but then you don't have the protection. But you can see the front of the optic right there. At the rear, this is where things get interesting. So it's merging two tubes into one image. There's a slight almost blur to the intersection between the two, but it's not a hard cut by any means. It's not like there's a vertical black bar or anything like that. It's a pretty nifty merging of the two images. And so if you see up close, there's two rounded optics, and it's almost like they've been shaved on either side and merged together. So the one other adjustment that you see on most goggles is the ocular focus, where you adjust it for your vision. In case you wear glasses, you don't have to wear glasses with night vision. The way they do it here, there's no way to crank an adjustment, and so they actually have removable filters that have adjustment values to them. So this one's the -1 diopter. It just acts as a good protective lens, and if you had different vision, you'd have to go get different diopters. So if you have a prescription, then you need a different diopter. You can dial that in, but you can't really find those everywhere. So these are just the stock -1s that come with them. Aviators seem to think that that was a good place to stop, to reduce eye strain over time and give them a nice clear image. The other adjustments you'll see here are the knobs on either side. These outer knobs are your interpupillary adjusters, your IP, and so you'll see those running the goggles left and right on a track. That makes sure your centered tubes are nice and clear, giving you a good binocular vision. I like to prioritize those to give myself a nice round image through those, and then let the panos just add to your peripheral vision wherever they end up. The other important adjustments are this one here, runs the goggles closer or further away from your eyes, so you can adjust how much scope shadow basically is around the tube image. You've got one more knob on this side, and this angles the whole bridge. There's a loosener here, so you'll see this tips the whole bridge up and down. And then you can snug it into place with that guy. I like to leave the goggles tipped upwards a little bit so that you can look underneath the tubes and see what's going on ambient without having to flip your goggles up. When you actually clip into a mount like this, you kind of come in, there's some notches here, and you just click right in and they'll flip up into place. This Wilcox one has a release here, flip down, and then if either the mount is powered up or the battery pack is powered up, they'd be turning on right now. Then you just depress that, flip them right up. Can use a red dot too. This isn't a super high mount, but you can get a pretty decent view because you've got so much peripheral. So you can like use one of the outside ones, but I can get enough cheek down to use an inner tube. A little bit of illumination out there.
Hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I want to say thank you once again to JW for showing us these really nice nods.